Our world is over 4 years old and we still don't have a good enchantment table. Back in the day, before Mojang broke the gold donut, this used to be our main source of XP and our main enchantment table setup. This little enchantment table right here is the only enchantment table we currently have on our world that is getting actively used, and it's really awkward to come over to the gold donut to get it, and since this farm no longer works, I thought it was time for an upgrade. So today we are going to be overhauling this chunk of terrain that's right between the Cave of Creation and Cybark's new mountain range, and we're about to build the most overkill enchantment table setup you have ever seen in your life. Essentially, we're going to build a wizard tower that consists of 2 towers and a greenhouse with a complete interior featuring 8 different rooms. Consisting of well over 200,000 blocks, I think this thing will rival the Forge in terms of my most overkill build that I've ever done for such a small project. But that's what we live for on this channel, so without further ado, let's get to block gathering. Let's see. Now, I don't know how block gathering for this is going to go. I know there is just so many blocks, and I don't really know what I need and what I don't need. Okay, so what in here do we need? We need most of this, but a lot of this is the mountain, obviously. I know I need some packed mud. I think I have a shulker box of packed mud left. Let's see, where was the andesite? There is the andesite. Let's see, dripstone. I'll just steal that. There's no way I'm gonna even use like any dripstone. I just might as well get a box of all of these. I'm just getting 1 of each, and we're gonna, I guess we got 2 of packed mud. Oh yeah, because I use packed mud in the tower. I don't know where all that cobbled deep slate's coming from. Deep slate. Holy cobbled deep slate. Do you guys think we have enough cobbled deep slate? The problem is I don't know how much of these blocks I need. I use granite, but I don't think I use 5 shulkers of granite. I think I only use like a shulker of it. It was at this point that I needed to gather about 10 shulker boxes of terracotta. This was for lime terracotta, green terracotta, and cyan terracotta for the project, as well as some regular terracotta. What do I need? What do I need? Acacia wood, 1.5 shulker boxes. I use so much acacia wood, man. I think I might have that much still though. I got so much extra during the redwood project. Plenty of acacia logs. Do we have any wood? Not really. Oh my gosh, look at how far down the list we've moved, guys. We're basically done with the project already. All right, definitely don't need coal ore. Blue stained glass, 2 shulker boxes, blue stained glass. To the forge we go. I ended up having to grab multiple shulker boxes of sand and do this trip a couple times, but for the sake of the video, I'm only going to show this once. Basically, I would just gather up some sand boxes from our end duper and then head over here and dye up some new glass. But the forge always deserves at least a little screen time. All right, carpet duper, that on. Feels good. Okay, shulker in. But while we're over here, this build right here is a brand new addition to our world. This is one of Cybark's original builds. I absolutely love how this build turned out, so huge props to him for designing this thing. I will talk more about this in the world tour that's slated to come out a couple weeks after this video, so stay tuned for that if you're interested. In total, I spent about 9 hours gathering blocks, and I will be honest, 95% of it looked like this. Riveting, I know. You guys think I need a shulker box of copper ore? Oh, we actually have mangrove logs. Feels good. Almost a shulker box of bookshelves. Now that is kind of a problem because I don't have sugarcane. I need to go grab sugarcane. No, wait, I have sugarcane. I have sugarcane. Cybark setup. Yep, we're so good at this game. We're so good at this game. We always, whenever we set up farms like this, we create that overflow chest. Yep. And while I had almost all the blocks, there was definitely a few I still obviously had to gather. For example, here I had to get brown concrete, red concrete, grass, and a few other blocks. For the most part though, I would say I had over 95% of the blocks already in my storage room, which was a huge blessing for this project. One of my favorite ways to expand your block palette is to every single time you make a new build, add a couple new blocks that you've never used before into it, and then whatever project you're working on in the future, you always have those in the back of your mind now. For this project, one of the ones that I utilized this strategy for was smithing tables. I don't know how many people know this, but the underside of smithing tables actually is a gorgeous texture, and it was phenomenal for doing my roof detailing. With this project, I went for more of an overgrown look, so I had to gather up a bunch of mossy cobblestone and mossy stone brick, but I think it turned out fantastic. Oh, it's been a long stream. 4 hours of block gathering where I didn't take a single break, guys. We did quite a lot though. I'm curious how many blocks we're up to. I mean, we're only like, oh my gosh, we're not even close to finishing the actual list, man. We got to jungle trapdoor. So we did all of those. But look at how many more there are. I hate myself. So wrapping up day one, there was still a lot left to do, but I was really confident we'd be able to get it all done by the end of the weekend. I film all of every single step of the project over on twitch.tv/peacefulpenguin. So if you guys are interested in helping me design builds, watching how I design builds, or just sitting around and hanging out with the awesome community we're growing, make sure to come swing by. I love chatting with you guys, and if you have any questions, feel free to let me know there. Speeding through a few blocks that we had to gather, we had to get a few stacks of glowberries, so that's me bone mealing some glowberry plants in our storage room. Next, we had to gather some seagrass, just went out, chopped a bunch of seagrass. I needed about 5 stacks of this. It's definitely one of those slightly more annoying blocks to gather as you're always fighting the water physics. Back to gathering more concrete. This time I need a little bit of pink concrete. Next, we had to craft a bunch of lodestones, and it turns out with lodestones, you have to use chiseled stone brick, and I did not know that, but I also learned afterwards that there's a much faster way I could have done this. If you stack stone brick slabs in a crafting table, it actually will give you chiseled stone bricks, and that would have saved me a ton of time instead of having to use the stone cutter for everything. Earlier, we talked about using smithing tables in this build. This was the other block that I was really trying to expand my block palette with, and I think lodestones are a fantastic floor block. And thank you so much, Mojang, for removing the netherite ingot from these and allowing me to actually use these on my world. And yep, back to the concrete blower upper. Next, we needed a little bit of glow lichen, so I went ahead and gathered the glow lichen here. One quick tip for glow lichen: when bone mealing it, do it on a flat surface. It saved me a ton of time rather than having to deal with it on a wall. Now, obviously, I haven't shown every single block, but here's a quick progress update on everything we've gathered up to this point. Let's see, how many? Yeah, there we go. I put the glow lichen in a different box, but that's a good chunk. Next, we bone mealed up some more bushes, gathered some more of those. Then we moved on to doing a little bit of cherry wood. I used this as a roof detailing block. Then we had to gather up some sea pickles. Now, I don't know if there's a faster way to do this, so please let me know down below in the comments if there is a way to actually farm sea pickles. As far as I can tell, all I can do is go to these corals and gather them a couple at a time. For this project, I needed about a stack of cactus flowers, and if you guys have ever had to gather cactus flowers, you know they're very rare and hard to come by. So I had this bright idea on stream to go ahead and just plant a ton of cactus and then AFK nearby, and hopefully it would generate enough cactus flowers that we wouldn't have to do any more of this. But obviously the biggest flaw in this plan is that it takes a long time for cactus flowers to grow. So we ended up just doing a bunch of general knowledge quizzes on stream as I was block gathering all of this. And after a couple quizzes, all the flowers had grown and we were good to continue. Yet none of us were getting Good Friday. Alright, do you guys think any flowers? Any flowers? There's a bunch of flowers. And now we wait. Do we do another jet punk quiz? The answer was yes. Now, I ended up not showing the rest as everything was kind of around 25 blocks max. But as you can see here, this is the entire list of blocks checked off. This is everything that I'd gathered in the second day in my final push. Nothing else in here was too crazy, and honestly, I had almost all of it. I think the only one of note was I had to go gather 5 beehives as I kind of decided to make like a bee farm in the wizard tower. That might not make sense, but trust me, it's my favorite room in the entire build. So it didn't do the allium, didn't do the mycelium. I have those, mine are just waxed for some reason. Didn't do the dandelions, I don't think. One short on that. I will grab those. I have those. Can't get those. Spruce signs, don't need that. Need that still. Already got that put away. Don't need that, don't need that. And with that, guys, that is every block we need. That's the block count. 9 hours or 10 hours, something of block gathering. And while this is a lot of total blocks, this is actually one of the few projects that I've ever done where the block gathering is actually not going to be the majority of this project. I have done a full interior for both of the towers in this project, and I think it's going to take forever for us to build this, but I am super excited to get this on the world. And so without further ado, I think I'll move these blocks over and we'll get to work on building this thing. Before we can start building, we first have to prep the land. This massive lake in the middle is actually going to be completely deleted. I'm going to do a custom river that stretches through this gap. So first step is to drain this lake. Following that, I had to mine out the canyon river that I'm adding. And I ended up doing this by hand, so I built 3 beacons and just went to town. But boy, did I underestimate how long this would take. So we've been mining for about 9 hours, and I thought it would be time to give you guys a quick visual update as to where we're at with the river. So obviously we started by draining out the entire river, and as you can see, we're looking pretty good on that. I did have to come back and do another draining session as there are multiple chunks that I missed. For example, there was a bunch of water underneath the mountain range that I didn't even know was there. And over here, I decided to make a little cove underneath the cliff. So I had to come back in and drain out a huge chunk here as well. So as you guys can tell, I've gone for like a canyon river design, and despite this looking like it's a pretty deep river so far, like the terrain is all the way up here and the river is going to be down there. I actually still have to drop the length of this river by another 5 to 6 blocks at least. So we still have quite a lot of mining left ahead of us, and I do need to put another beacon in, as it turns out 3 do not cover this entire river. I need to have a 4th one over here. I lose beacon range about here, and it's just going to take me too long to keep running back and forth. Overall though, I'm really pleased. We've been chipping this out really quickly. It's been, I think, about 10 hours so far to get to this point. I'm hoping that we'll have it done within like another 8 hours of mining. Maybe I should have used TNT for this project, but it's a little tough because I really don't want to blow up stuff around this. Another perk of hand mining this whole thing out has been I've got to keep all the materials. Cybark recently obviously made his giant mountain range that I haven't shown in a video yet, but it'll be in the world tour soon. And he used up all of the stone we had, so at least I'm able to recuperate some of the materials we lost, as well as I'm getting a bunch of andesite and diorite and stuff, which I've been completely out of and I've really needed for a while. So back to mining we go. This was just that last little chunk that I had to knock out, and then I lowered the river a couple more blocks and we're good to go. In those last few clips, we finished fully mining out the river. And by fully, there's still a little bit left, but that's for future Penguin to worry about. But as you can see now, the cliff sides are fully knocked out. We'll be able to put in the new river. There's also some divots in the ground here. These are where the bottom of the riverbed will sit. And while it's obviously pretty ugly right now, we first got to clear out all the space so we can make way for the new stuff to come in. As you can see, this actually ended up taking a lot longer than I expected. I thought I only had to dig out like 6 or 7 layers. I had to dig out like 20 in some of these areas. I think I mined like another 60,000 stone, and obviously there's a ton of other materials in here, so it's probably about 80 to 90,000 blocks mined. Coming back to the build though, we get to place the first blocks in this entire project. So starting at the lowest point, we started filling in the riverbed. And it turns out Past Penguin had the bright idea of using path blocks. Now, I do think path blocks look phenomenal, but man, are they an absolute pain to place in. When you're using Lightmatica, you can't actually easy place path blocks in. This is because you obviously have to hit a dirt block with a shovel to turn it into a path block, and because of that extra step, you have to go in and manually place all the paths in. Moving on though, we're starting to do the cliff sides of the river. And now for the cliffside design, I decided to replicate the same designs I did in the Redwood Forest, as the Redwood Forest borders this area, and I thought it'd be perfect to kind of continue the same feeling. It is something we love to do on this world. Every time we work on a new project, we try to blend it into the past projects that are nearby. And in this case, with the redwoods being right there, I thought it would be best to make it feel like it was still part of the same biome. In the future, I actually also further continue this by adding 3 more redwood trees to this area, just to help bridge the gap. Our world also kind of ends up feeling like one of those Russian nesting dolls where behind every single layer of custom terrain is another layer of custom terrain that was eventually covered up in the past. I think right here on the cliffside, there's over 4 layers of custom terrain that's been covered up. And while that adds extra build time, it is really nice to always have decent looking terrain. I hate when we leave projects unfinished, so in this case for me, at least semi-finishing is always better than leaving it blank. Moving on though, right here, I ended up having to rebuild part of Cybark's mountain as he didn't carry it all the way down, and due to my river now being way lower, I had to bridge the gap between the two. Now, I think I did a pretty good job at blending it. Let me know down below if you think I blended that smoothly. And this is the last piece of the basic terrain work before we get going with the actual project. I ended up doing a very similar color palette to what the redwood flooring was, except I removed a couple of the blocks and made it feel a little bit more grassy and a little bit less muddy. But after all these hours, we finally get to place the very first blocks of the wizard tower, so here I am placing the very first ones. Penguin at this moment had no idea how many hours were in store for him to finish this project off. In my recent building improvements, I have started to really try to shade builds correctly. And what I mean by that is I used 2 different color palettes based on the side of the build that we were facing, and on one side I used these really bright white and tan blocks, and on the other side I used more of the browns. This has been the real big area of improvement I've been focusing on in 2025, has been really emphasizing using correct color and correct shading, and I really think the improvements are very substantial when you look at my builds from at the start of the year versus them now. I'm not sure what my focus is going to be in 2026, but I think my focus is going to be more on bringing life into my projects rather than improving color and texture. I messed up the gathering step for this. I didn't include the base of the riverbed, so I was about 4 or 5 shulker boxes short on packed mud, and I went ahead, gathered up another 5. But you know what that means? More quizzes. Which one's that one? No, wait.
No, that's Sweden's the middle, Norway's the left, or is it the other way around?
One of them is
left.
Finland.
I think that's Finland.
Finland, let's go.
Yeah, and then that's Norway.
I thought you said Sweden's in the middle. I did also need a bunch of wheat for the packed mud, so I had to gather a few more shulker boxes of wheat. So it was at this point that I realized that my current strategy just wasn't really working. As you can see in these clips, some of these schematic layers were insanely messy, and I really could not tell what was a block that I had and what was a block that I did not have. For example, in my shading on the outside of the tower, I used smooth sandstone as my highlight block, but I also used sandstone on the interior to bring that tan color in. And from the top, these blocks look identical, so it was really difficult to tell which one was which, and if I could place it or if I couldn't place it. Another issue similar to this was with bookshelves, with the top of them looking like oak planks. And while my solution to this probably isn't perfect, what I did is I re-schematic the entire tower, but I only selected the blocks that I was currently working with, and I decided to build this tower kind of block by block rather than layer by layer. Or more, I should say, type of block. So for my first schematic, I went ahead and I used all the blocks that we were currently working with at the time to build the frame. These blocks included smooth sandstone, birch planks, oak planks, jungle planks, granite, and packed mud. I figured it made the most sense to continue with the frame that I was already working on, as well as would kind of give us a starting point to put all the new sections onto, as there are big blocks of color that'll be easily inserted into the frame and it'll kind of look like we're finishing the painting. Now, I forgot to hit record on my flashback mod, so I don't have any video footage of me doing this next middle section. However, this is kind of what my perspective looked like while I was working on this. Now that we've removed all of the other blocks, it was very, very easy to tell what needed to be done. So it kind of became a game of just find all of the missing blocks in Lighmatica and just paint them all in. And this also did lead to a bunch of very, very interesting building techniques developed by yours truly. So I hope you guys enjoy watching me fail as much as my stream did. This one I call the flightless bird. I get asked all of the time on YouTube how to get better at building, and I hate that the only answer I can really give you is so cliche, and it's always just to build more. And I'm completely evidence of this. If you look at my builds from literally like 2-3 years ago, they are so much worse than they are now. And the only difference that I had is I just kept building. But with that being said, I'm super active in Discord and I try my best to help you guys out whenever you guys have building questions, though I seem to get asked more about redstone than building. But if you guys are interested in getting some building help from me, make sure to join the Discord down below. I do my best to help everyone out. So that link will be listed down below in the description. Make sure to come join the community. Are we done with this block? Oh wait, no. I forgot there's an entire another tower. So just now we managed to finish Tower 1. Now we only finished the frame colors for this, so we're going to quickly knock out all of the rest of the frame for Tower 2. Initially when I was planning this build, there was only the one tower, but I ended up building the second one to help balance it out and make it blend into the terrain more. I love how it kind of curves around the edge of the mountain now and really fits the terrain, rather than kind of feeling randomly placed. So at this point, we've now finished the frame, and my next step was to do the exact same process again on a different color palette, and I decided to do the two very colored sections of the build, which was all the red and all of the green. Now, unfortunately, once again, I forgot to hit record. I did a 7.5-hour stream, and I started the red and green section about 5 hours in, and I was just so tired and I forgot to hit record, and I'm really annoyed about that, as I think this portion would have looked epic in the video with all the color getting added to the project. Unfortunately, I goofed bad, so here's just a couple shots of me working on it. And with those last couple clips, we've wrapped up the green and all of the red, and I thought this would be a perfect time to give you guys a little bit of a tour and explain exactly what's going on with this tower. So starting off, you can tell it's actually kind of built into 3 different pieces. We have this little tower on the side, the main tower, and what will become the greenhouse for this project. Originally, I wanted this tower just to feel like a giant fantasy library, but in the end, I ended up pivoting away from that and going for more of a magic school feeling. In this main section here, this is the main library with all of the desks, a reception, and a few other fun little features like a massive chandelier. In this wing here, this is the giant greenhouse. I ended up building a bunch of custom orange trees that sit inside of here, and it feels very magical, and I'm super happy with how the greenhouse turned out. I can't wait for you guys to see what that looks like. Moving on though, we also have this tower here. And at this point, I'd already designed the greenhouse and I'd already designed the main tower, and I was like, what else could we do? I actually ended up offloading this to both of my moderators, so huge shout out to Sky and Beat, who again clutched up for me. And this has been split into 3 classroom setups, and then I have designed a headmaster's office that sits at the top right here. Oh, and I forgot, the entire point of this build is to have an enchantment table set up for us, and that sits on this level, and you'd think that that'd be a bigger deal, but honestly, we use an enchantment table once every like 3 months, and you can tell how infrequently we use it by the fact that I forgot to even mention that we had one in this project. But hey, almost every good build has a great purpose behind it. Moving on though, I think the next section we're going to start tackling is there's this deep brown color that I have in all these gaps, and that will help us really fill out this frame, and it should look a lot more complete once we finish the brown. Then after that, we'll start getting to detailing work. We'll start adding in all of the fences, the slabs, the stairs, the walls, and start really polishing out all of these arches. So without further ado, let's keep going. So once again, the way I did all the other colors, I did the same thing with the browns. On one side, the lightest block is a terracotta, and on the other side, it goes all the way down to a gray terracotta. I think this variety of colors based on the direction that the sun is really helps elevate this build to another level that most of my other projects just don't have. Following the completion of the terracotta, however, it is time for us to begin the glass work. Now, originally I wanted everything to be a blue stained glass, but it just didn't look good on the greenhouse, so I ended up pivoting and having the greenhouse be a light gray, and I had the rest of the tower be the blue color that I'd wanted. I do love how those lines in the greenhouse turned out. I really wanted that supported stained glass look, and I think I achieved it with those lines. Continuing on from the glass, however, it is finally time for us to start the detailing work, and I made these simple designs on every single window in the build, and I think it really helped break up that plain color of just the plain glass. Building these window designs, however, was one of the most draining parts of this entire process. Placing trapdoors and orientating them correctly with Lightmatica without the fabric mod. I really should sit down at some point in the next couple months to try and figure out the fabric mod to get the orientation to help. But I also take a lot of pride in the fact that my server is 100% vanilla and all we use is client-side quality of life mods. I think this part of the building process though was the most satisfying, to see all those rough edges getting smoothed over and polished into these really nice curves. One thing I want to remind you guys though is I actually play currently on 121.5, so I still do not have access to shelves. This is the first build I've ever done that would have been so helpful to have the shelves, as well as it would have been insanely helpful to have the happy guess. You'll see me scaffolding around all over this project in order to place these hard to reach blocks, and I just wish I'd had the happy gas. For our next project in January, I will be updating the server, so we'll have access to everything new, and that project will hopefully make use of them. That's right, so our next project in January is going to be our new Nether hub. I shouldn't say new, we don't actually have one yet, but it will be our first Nether hub, and I will be doing a massive wasteland battlefield, hopefully making use of the Nether fog to hide the ancient weapons scattered around. So if you're interested in seeing me design this, make sure to come say hi over on Twitch. I will be designing the entire process in January. Sadly, I will be on vacation for the next couple weeks, so I'll be putting a pause on my Minecraft builds, but I think I need a break, and I'll be looking forward to joining you guys in the new year once again. Coming back to the build though, this is the last step of the exterior of the tower, and it is us building the little Zen gardens that fill all of those dishes on every single level. I was struggling to make the tower look less evil, and I thought bringing nature in really helped with this. And it really fits the lore of the area with the Cave of Creation and the Redwood Forest. At this point, I think I'd been building for like 30 something hours, and it was finally time for us to start the interior, and I decided to start with my favorite room of them all, which is the greenhouse. We'll come back to the greenhouse in a second, but I quickly do want to say thank you guys so much for the continued support. I seriously can't believe that we're getting close to 40,000 subs. Just as a reminder, I had 500 subs on this channel back at the middle of the year, so I am astounded by the support you guys have given me. It means so much to me. The final step in the greenhouse build, as you can see right here, was me adding a bunch of beehives, so now we have a bunch of little bees floating around the wizard tower. I'm so organized, you guys don't even understand how organized I am. Alright, where's my spruce trapdoors? Moving on, it is time for us to start the main lobby. So the first step for this was putting in the lodestone flooring, and then we went around and added all the bookshelves in. One thing you'll probably notice is that the tower has no staircase between the floors. This was kind of an oversight on my part, but I could not find a way to make a staircase look good. I think the only way it could have worked is a central spiral staircase, but then that takes up all the open space where the giant chandelier hangs from. And ultimately, I decided that they're wizards, and the way that this will work for lore is as the wizards level up, they gain the ability to fly, and they're able to fly to the other floors. The higher up they can fly is dependent on how powerful they become. I furthered this lore by having the top floor be the restricted book section. Sometimes when you mess up, you just gotta lean into it. This was one of those cases. I've had my head down for a few days and I've just been grinding away at this project, and I realized that I haven't really stopped and updated you guys as to where I've gotten up to. So obviously with this tower, this project is very, very far from finished. There's holes everywhere. The river's not even filled in. The cove right here isn't finished. This is all subject to be changed. There isn't even a bridge yet to the entrance, but we have had about 11 hours of progress on the interior since I last updated, and we'll start in one of my favorite rooms in the entire project. This room is fully finished and completely done, so we have all of the desks in, all of the rugs are done, all of the little detailing is done. So starting off in this back corner, we have like a little nursery planting area. So this is where the gardeners and all the students will come to plant new trees that will eventually grow into these magical orange trees. So this area comes equipped with a bunch of pots, a few little saplings, some water. A shovel should be in this item frame, but I have yet to put it in. I just keep finding details I've missed, and that is one of them. Continuing on though, the reason that I call these trees magical orange trees is I use the glow berries to kind of look like and represent oranges. And continuing on with this magical orange feeling, I've gone and put these crates of magical oranges that I also built out of shroom lice to help keep that glowing magical orange feeling. In our last video, we also made that giant sniffer farm, or the tiny sniffer farm, but it's allowed us to get plenty of torch flowers, so I'm now able to use torch flowers to decorate. And if we're being honest, there is no flower in this game better than a torch flower for having that magical feeling. One of my other little details that I absolutely love about this thing is I went ahead and gathered a bunch of beehives. Now some of these placements look a little strange, but honestly, you get used to it really quickly and it kind of feels natural after a little bit. But there is nothing better than having little bees buzzing around the garden, pollinating all the plants. It is so adorable and it fits the vibe immaculately. A couple other little details I like is we added a wheelbarrow here. These are some of the bigger potted saplings, so we've gone ahead and added a couple branches above it, or a couple leaves above it, sorry, that kind of help bridge the gap between the saplings and the full-size trees. And then we have a couple little nooks around. So this one is the study corner. So this one has a couple different seating options. It has a couple desks and some storage and a few other little details to help students study. And then on this side is more of a lounging section with a nice big couch and a place for the students to relax and enjoy the garden. Just for the sake of it, I thought you guys might want to see what this garden looks like in shaders. I absolutely love how these trees glow. It looks so cool from the outside as well. Being able to see all the glowing trees inside really pops, and I really like how that turned out. But continuing on into the main area, this is like the main central lobby of the entire project. And I do want to show you guys this again later once I finish all of this upstairs section, but currently we've only done the first floor. And when you enter this thing, the first thing that you notice is this big central structure. And what this is meant to represent is kind of like a giant circular reception. My inspiration for this was actually Lorrakin's, I think that's how you say it, it's tower from Baldur's Gate. He has this central reception when you enter his tower, and I really like the feeling of it, and I went ahead and tried to replicate it a little bit. Now, if you go and you look up photos for it, it's actually extremely different, but that was the inspiration for this. I keep getting comments asking about where I get my inspiration from, and it's honestly just all over the place. A couple little other details I added these little end caps. In the past, I've gone to bookstores, and there's always these little end caps where there's like some smaller genres and some books available to be read. I thought that would help fill in all these empty spaces. I added all these ladders to all these second layers to help reach all those higher up books. So up there's a whole another ring, more seating everywhere. More books everywhere, just more books, and more books. I went ahead and added a couple green walls as well, just to help break up the monotone feeling of the build, and I thought adding that pop of green really helped that. As you can see, just more ladders to more books. Everything I wanted in this product was just for it to be an overwhelming number of books, and I think I got close. I think there could have been more books in this build, but as a whole, I'm very pleased with how this all turned out. Some things that will never get old though is seeing all of the different angles that are going to be viewable from this thing. Like all these mountains are everywhere. When we come over to the front side of this build here, just look at these mountains on the horizon. This area is just becoming so cool to walk around in. Moving on with the rest of this project though, I'm going to knock out the upstairs section of this tower, do the center chandelier, and then do the two rooms that sit above, including the main enchantment setup and the restricted book section. So continuing on to the second floor, the main highlight of this entire area is the center chandelier. Apart from that, it was a much tougher space to add a bunch of books in, so I really settled for having 4 main sections of books on the walls with some nice staircases zigzagging up them. I also tried my best to frame the windows really nicely, so I hope that turned out alright. One of the big highlights of this build is all of the natural light that is in every single room. No! How did that kill me? I think the last time that I actually died in game was back when I was working on the forge and I messed up the bomber. Back to level 7. We knew it would come to an end eventually though. Yeah, this is going way higher than I thought it was.
Yeah, definitely over 100.
Holy. This XP farm's just stupid, bro. Getting back to work, this was finally time to build the chandelier, and I love how this thing turned out. It doesn't really make sense, but it looks cool. That yellow beam is kind of meant to just be some magic zap that's happening. That's like some way of illuminating the books on the walls. Coming up above the main lobby, you can see the next floor is fully done now. My all-time favorite shot in this build is looking up into the massive chandelier that hangs in the center. There's something about just seeing tiers and tiers of different detailing that just brings joy to me. Going back to this main floor though, it's full of more detailing work. It's all these same tables, bookshelves, desks everywhere, all these different workspaces for the students to use when they're studying. I also love in libraries when they have those stairs that zigzag up the bookshelves to help you reach the higher up ones. Now, obviously these aren't fully accessible. There wasn't a good way to get them fully accessible in like a 1x1 space, but I think it paints the picture and I think it looks really good to have the stairs on them. Moving on to the main attraction, the center chandelier. This was actually inspired by the Citadel from Game of Thrones. When I was designing this 2-story room, I knew I would need something massive hanging from the ceiling in order to draw your eyes. A quick building tip is when you have these massive open spaces, it's always better if you can make it feel more cluttered. So to accomplish that, I really had to bring the ceiling down, and I thought a massive chandelier would be the perfect way to do that. So this chandelier is 3 different parts. It's got the center orb with the cage around it, and then it's got multiple tiers of just rings after rings and more supports everywhere to help it really feel like it's attached to the walls correctly. Adding multiple tiers also allowed me to add alternate ways to add lighting. With this project, one of the biggest challenges I had was actually making the entire room feel lit up. I had the same problem working down here, and you can see all these different spots that I hid lighting. We hid lighting in the roof, we hung lighting down, we placed lighting on the walls, we placed lighting on the floor. Everywhere you look, I hid lighting because the bigger the space, the harder it is to light up. Continuing up, this is the enchantment floor. This one little room was the entire reason we built the project, and I think it turned out pretty good. One thing you guys might not know is this is actually the first interior I have done in over 3 years, and I'm really proud of how it turned out, all things considered. My building skills have come a very long way in the last 3 years, and it was really nice to put it to a test on an interior. There's not much better than watching the sun rise from the deck of the 3rd floor. So the 3rd floor is actually the heart of this entire project. It is a full level 30 enchantment table in the center. Around the room, there's a bunch of different things you need in order to do enchanting. So there's like a grindstone here, and then this will be full of lapis eventually, as well as there's an anvil over there. Once again, we carried the same rug designs up. We did the same cabinets everywhere, more desks, kept bringing the same furniture all around the entire project. And then once again, we went for a massive chandelier. This time, however, we went for more of a Saturn. What I mean by that is it is a giant floating gold ring around a crystal orb. We did more of the same hidden lighting designs in the roof. And I think all together, it feels different, but it also feels the same, which is exactly what I wanted from this project. Now, one thing I do have to do on this floor though, is show you guys some of the views that you get from up here. I mean, look at some of the shots of the mountains you get from up here. It's one mountain range. Over here in the distance, you can see the other mountain range. You can see the Cave of Creation. You can see the jungle. I'll talk more about the jungle in the world tour that's slated to come out in about a week and a half. So make sure to stay tuned for that. Now, back when I was designing this build, I had all these rings and I really didn't know what to do with them. And eventually I was like, what if I just made like a giant Zen garden on all of them? So this is how you actually will be able to move around the tower on all these floors. And I love how it feels with the outdoor indoor feeling, where 1 second you're indoors and then the next second you're just in a garden. There is something very comedic though to me about how this small room right here, well, it's not really small, but this room right here is the entire reason I built this entire project, was just for this little enchantment table, and it's such a small portion of the project. I feel like I have a habit of doing this, for example, with the giant forge that I made, and all it is just a small smelter. Moving up again, this is the restricted book section. This is the very tippy top of the tower where only the best wizards ever reach. Now, every book in this section, I tried to make it look like it was chained up by using chains and other blocks to kind of cover up the bookshelves. I think it turned out all right. One thing I do want to mention is I did come back and change these lanterns to soul lanterns, and it's definitely a bit more eerie and a bit better. Continuing on to the first interior not designed by me, this one was designed by Beat, and I want to take a moment real quick to talk about the world tour that'll be coming out. Currently, my goal is to post it on Christmas Eve, and I'll let you guys know on Discord whether that is still going to happen when the time gets closer. So it should be about a week and a half after this video comes out. I'll be posting a full walkthrough of the world. Now I expect this video to be probably about 2 hours, so hopefully with everyone being on break, it's manageable. A couple fun details I'm excited to show you guys is we now have custom forest stretching over 1,040 blocks on our world. That's right, over 1,000 blocks wide is our custom forest now, and as top of that, it is also now walkable from one side of the world to the other without ever stepping foot off of custom terrain. So much has been added to the world in the last year, and I can't wait to show you all. So if you guys think I've earned it so far and you're interested in seeing the world tour, make sure to hit that subscribe button and the like button. It really helps me out and it means the world to me. I've also heard subscribing makes you better at building, but that's just a rumor and there's only one way to find out if it's true. But with that being said, this is the last completed room on the interior and we are officially done with it all. Continuing on the interior tour, this is the second tower, and all of this tower is full of classrooms. So the first classroom down here is kind of like a potions defense against the dark art classroom. And before I continue on with this, I want to say floors 1 and 2 were built by Beetroot, one of my Twitch and Discord moderators. Huge shout out to her. She is absolutely a phenomenal builder and I really appreciate it. And then floor 3 was designed by another one of my moderators named Sky. Both of these mods helped me out with 1 or 2 of the interiors over in the Redwood Village. So huge shout out to them. I really appreciate it, guys. Now, I actually haven't finished this project. This cage right here is meant to hold a zombie villager or something for the students to be working on. And I plan on working on these the week after this video goes live. I have some personal conflicts, which is why I ran out of time to get this project done, but I will have that done at some point soon. Now, coming up to the second floor, this is another classroom. Now, this one has more of a plant feeling. One thing that I have no idea how she came up with is Beat designed these little garden beds. So basically, these are pitcher pod plants where you plant the seed and then you put a block above them so it can't grow the flower and you're left with like this gorgeous turnip. I didn't even know this was a thing, so huge shout out to her. I'm going to be using this in the future. But once again, it's more of the same designs. She tried her best to copy my style over, so huge props. I really like how this turned out. And then going up to the third floor here, this is the main classroom. This is the one with the chalkboard where the teacher will stand, and I do plan on filling this area with copper golems and as well as some armor stands. So I'll have an armor stand sitting right here teaching the class. Then we'll have the copper golems as all the students wandering around. Once again though, more of the same, so huge shout out to Sky for this room. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, guys. Coming back to the exterior of this build, there was this giant area where I just didn't know what to do with it, and I ended up adding like this little garden patio with a little bit of outdoor seating. It was really just to help break up all of the giant flowers that I added around, and adding a little bit of something else went a long way into making the area outside look a lot more polished. So with the first pass, we added all the stems to the flowers, and then we went back and added all the tops. These are actually flowers that I designed back when we made the Cave of Creation, and they just hadn't gotten used. They were unused assets, and I decided to repurpose them for this project. And I'm so happy they finally got used because these were my favorite ones that I designed. They just didn't fit the first build, and it was great to give them a second life. Following the flowers, I did build 3 more redwood trees. This was just to help blend the redwood biome over, and then also I've gone ahead and added a bunch of the little pine trees in. In the past, when I did the redwood village, I talked about how I didn't add the underbrush, and I would come back and add that in whenever I did neighboring projects. This is me making true on my word. So for this first section, I went ahead and blended the two together with some normal pines. Now, to be honest, it's still a little plain. It really needs the underbrush, and I will come back and do that at some point in the near future. But with the pines in, it was time for us to finish up the river, so we first went ahead and filled up the entire river, and then we built the last bridge that connects the mainland to the Wizard Tower. I've built so many bridges recently, and honestly, this was one of the harder ones I've ever made. For some reason, I just couldn't get the shape to look right, and I ended up just doing a simple arch and then adding like a little support section to it. I think it looks pretty interesting, despite not being very detailed. I do love this shot though, going up the bridge and into the Wizard Tower. And then this is another shot that I quickly edited, flying up between all of the levels to show you how detailed this tower really is. And then for the final detail of the entire project, whenever I think about wizard towers, I always think about those giant runes floating in the sky. So I went ahead and designed my own giant glowing rune that hovers above the tower, almost like a symbol of protection over the forest. I always forget to add nighttime shots of my projects, so here's a quick nighttime shot of it, and here's a couple other quick beauty shots of the entire project. While I go ahead and tidy up this project, I want to quickly say thank you guys all so much for watching. It means the world to me. I can't believe how close we are to getting to 40,000 subs on YouTube. It's absolutely mind-blowing. If you told Past Penguin this, he would have never believed you. But as the sun says, this is another project in the books, and I can't wait to start the next one. I'll see you guys then.